So Boss recently announced the brand new Boss RC-5, and in today's video, we're going to discuss the brand new features that it brings compared to the Boss RC-3. Hey, what's up? Hope you're having a fantastic day and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at the Boss RC-5 and comparing it against the Boss RC-3, which is the previous version of the loop pedal. And we're going to talk about whether it's worth actually spending the extra money on the Boss RC-505, whether you're upgrading from the Boss RC-3 or whether it's your first time purchasing a loop pedal. Now we did recently do a video where we took a look at the Boss RC-500 and the Boss RC-5, and we discussed the announcements, some of the new features on the two loop pedals, and you can check that out over here if you're interested. And that video did crazy well when I uploaded it. It got like 2,500 views in the first 24 hours, which has never happened here on this channel. So thank you very much to everyone that watched that video. So let's first actually discuss some of the specs between the two loop pedals and what's actually new on the RC-5, and then we'll conclude the video with my overall thoughts on the new iterations on the RC-5. So first off, let's actually discuss the pricing of the two loop pedals. Now the Boss RC-3, you can currently pick that up in the UK for about £119. And then the Boss RC-5, which is yet to be released, you can pre-order that for about £175. So there is quite a huge difference between the cost of each of the loop pedals, which is why it's important to actually know what you're paying for with the RC-5. Now, probably the most notable upgrade on the Boss RC-5 over the Boss RC-3 is actually the record time. Now, if you don't know what record time is, this is basically how much space is available on the loop pedal. Now, both of the loop pedals still have 99 preset memory patches. And what you can do on those preset memory patches is you can actually save your live looping performance. So for example, you could create a loop, save that onto the preset patch, and then you could recall it at a later date. Alternatively, you could also have a variety of different loop settings set up, whether that be different drum patterns, things like that, and you could save that to little preset patches. Another thing that the record time dictates as well is actually how long you can continuously record on your loop pedal for. Now the Boss RC-3 has a total record time of 3 hours. So this means you could continuously record for 3 hours on the Boss RC-3 and it would record everything and loop back everything you did within that duration. Now the really cool thing about the Boss RC-5 is we have been upgraded to a total of 13 hours record time, which is a huge increase, which is going to give you a lot more flexibility within the types of loops you can save and perform with the Boss RC-5. Another bump in the spec sheet as well has been the actual audio quality that the loop pedal outputs. Now the Boss RC-3 already had fantastic audio quality. It was outputting WAV 16-bit, which is on par with the Boss RC-505, which is the flagship loop pedal by Boss. But now the Boss RC-5 is actually going to output 32-bit with the new Boss sound engine, which is going to be a huge increase over the 16-bit. And I seriously do think you will be able to hear that upgrade, because recently I tried out a 24-bit loop pedal and that absolutely sounded phenomenal. So I think that's a really cool specification. Now, although nothing has changed visually with the Boss RC-5, and it's still in Boss's standard stomp box, which we've known for decades, and it works absolutely fantastic, there are some tweaks that have made this old format a little bit more friendly in 2020. And Boss have now introduced a brand new LCD display on this super compact pedal. Now, what we can do with this colored LCD display is actually really cool. One, it makes customizing the pedal a lot easier because we have a proper screen now to change out settings, but also it enhances the live looping performance. Now, previously on the Boss RC-3, the way we would understand what the loop pedal was doing was by the LEDs in the top left corner. They would illuminate red, green to tell us the state of the loop pedal. Now, the LCD screen now is a loop light indicator on the Boss RC-5. So it lights up red and says record when you're recording a loop. It lights up green and says play when you're playing back the loop. And it also lights up orange/yellow when you are overdubbing on the loop pedal as well. So it shows you the state of the loop pedal via these LCD screen loop light indicators, which I actually quite like, especially this is like a beginner style loop pedal, single track loop pedal. It really helps you learn and understand how the loop pedal responds to how you press it. Now, there is a bit of a downside to this LCD display. Now, if you're familiar with the Boss stomp boxes and you've ever owned one of these, you'll be aware that we can run these off a battery, and we can also run them off a power supply, a 9-volt power supply that we can plug straight into the wall. So we have both options. Now the Boss RC-3, running off a 9-volt battery, you get a total of 3 hours time with the loop pedal. So you can use it for 3 hours before it drains the battery and it goes flat. Whereas with the Boss RC-5, we only have a maximum of 2 hours 9-volt battery life, which is quite a decrease, especially if you're maybe picking up the Boss RC-5 or the Boss RC-3 to do busking. You know, you want to play on the street, you don't have any power supply, and you're using battery powers in order to do your performance. Now, losing that hour is actually very significant and something to consider if you're not going to be plugging it into a power source. So now let's actually discuss the back of the loop pedals. And in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting talking points between the RC-3 and the RC-5, because we've both gained features, but also lost feature sets on the loopers. Now, one of the really cool additions to the Boss RC-5 is the brand new Midi integration. This is going to allow us to expand the control that we have of the Boss RC-5. So whether that be plugging in an external foot remote, so we could actually control the Boss RC-5 in greater depth with a MIDI foot remote, or actually plugging it into our computer and using it in conjunction via MIDI sync with Ableton Live, Logic, stuff like that. Now, the sacrifice that has had to be made for this additional MIDI functionality is actually the aux in. Now, on the Boss RC-3, you have the ability to plug in an aux cable into the back of the pedal, and you could use an MP3 player in conjunction with your looper. And for some people, obviously, this is quite an essential feature. But with the Boss RC-5, that has been replaced by this MIDI compatibility, so you cannot plug an MP3 player in via an aux cable. That feature is completely gone. So if that's something you're really interested in, unfortunately, it's no longer available on the RC-5. Now, another thing that surprised me about the Boss RC-5 is the fact it's still using USB Type-B. Now, if we compare the RC-5 to the RC-500, which both got announced on the exact same day, the RC-500 is using USB Type-C, which is a much more modern and faster connection, whereas the Boss RC-5 is still using the really old Type-B, which was available on the RC-3. I don't really know why they did that choice, but it just seems extremely strange. Now, a very common application for these single track Boss loop pedals is usually for guitarists that are looking for something to enhance their practicing routine. That might be just throwing down a few chords and practicing the guitar solos over the top using the onboard drum grooves. Now, the really cool thing about the Boss RC-5 is they've really upgraded this department for people wanting to use this loop pedal in that type of scenario. Now, on the Boss RC-3, I believe we had like a total of 10 drum patterns that we could actually choose from, whereas with the Boss RC-5, this has been greatly improved. We have a total of 57 grooves that we can pick from. And the cool thing about these 57 drum grooves is there's 2 variations of each groove. So that means we have an A and a B. So that could be a verse style groove and a chorus style groove that you can actually choose from. And then additionally, on top of this plethora of drum grooves we can actually select, is we can also fine tune the sound and the drum kit that's selected. Now, we have a total of 7 drum kits that we can actually choose to play the grooves within the loop pedal, which is insane customization for whatever you want to do, writing songs, practicing guitar, solos, techniques, things like that. Absolutely fantastic. Now, some new features that are brand new to the Boss RC-5 are the built-in reverb for the rhythm section. So now the drum grooves have their own reverb, so they sound less dry, and also the new reverse feature that's been added. So if you've used any of the other Boss loopers, RC-300, 30, 505, whatever, they've had this reverse feature for ages where you can play the loop backwards and it sounds really cool. You can create some cool textures within the loop. Well, I believe this has now been added to the Boss RC-5, which I don't think it was on the Boss RC-3. Now, to conclude, do I think it's worth the extra £56 to pick up the Boss RC-5 over the Boss RC-3? And in my honest opinion, I think the feature set present on the Boss RC-5 is definitely worth that extra money. It's just a more powerful loop pedal in general. You got much greater rhythm section with the 57 patterns, 2 variants, all that type of stuff, but also you get MIDI integration, which we've never seen on a loop pedal of this size in this format by Boss before. And this is just going to allow you to grow with the loop pedal. You can do much more advanced things with it before you actually upgrade to a more beefier loop pedal like the Boss RC-505. for example. But if you're actually just looking for a super simple stripped back loop pedal in this format, I'd actually just recommend picking up the Boss RC-1. It's got none of the bells or whistles that the RC-3 or 5 has. You know, it's just simply a loop pedal, no drum section, nothing like that. And also it's a lot cheaper. I think it's about like £75. But if you've enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing and turning the notification bell to on so you get notified when I finally can do my Boss RC-5 and Boss RC-500 coverage when the loop pedals are finally released. But as always, I've been Ben Rowans. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.